And along those lines, we do have a question from James at Tisme James on Twitter, from Dulwich, as we call it over here. So I've raised my son, and this is something I've seen all over the place on Twitter and on Facebook. I raised my son as a Gooner from birth. He's now 12. He said, "Dad, I would rather us lose the Europa League final if it somehow meant that Spurs lose the Champions League final too. I felt so proud I shed tears." So here's the poll that everybody's been putting on Twitter. There's been a lot of discussion about this on the U.S. supporters group, Arsenal America, on their website. A lot of people using the P word, poser, not the other P word. People not from England, not from London, not from North London, weighing in with opinions on this. But it's a Sophie's choice. Hypothetically, there's only two possible outcomes, not four. Arsenal and Tottenham both win. Arsenal and Tottenham both lose. Again, there's a lot of debates. Why do you even care what Tottenham does? I'm Arsenal first, Tottenham second. And a lot of other people say you just don't understand. So, James, as an Arsenal supporter, which would you prefer? I'm sure you've pondered this dilemma.
It's a really tricky one. It's a really, really tricky one. I think I'm going to surprise myself, and I'd say us both winning the trophies, because we've got to get back in the Champions League if we're ever to stand a chance of winning it. And I think you've got to play the long game and think if they win one, we'll win two. It might take a long time, but it will happen. I worry about letting this club, our club, slide any longer,
Yeah, I mean, if we had finished fourth, which could have happened in a number of ways, I think the answer would be different. But
what do you think?
I've gone on record saying I'm about 50.1% towards the same thing, us both winning, and 49.9% of us both losing. I am American. I didn't grow up in North London, but I spent a couple of years there.
Yeah.
I certainly understand to an extent the rivalry and the understanding here. But like you said, I mean, we are on a precipice of reducing our payables to match our receivables financially here after 3 straight years of missing the Europa League, and there's a concern that things will continue to go down rather than back the other way. There was another question yesterday, and I'll ask both of them to you, Andy. I was on another podcast, the Gooner Talk, with Tom, and the part B of the question was Tottenham lose the cup, but Arsenal immediately get relegated to League One. And there were people in the chat saying, League One it is. At least we still have a football club. So for those people, the fate of Arsenal really was irrelevant when it came to the hatred of having Spurs win the Champions League. And my rationale is the difference between the Champions League and the Premier League. I might feel differently if it was the Premier League title, because to me, the Premier League is you cannot luck into winning. Even if you're Leicester City, you cannot luck into winning the Premier League. No. It's a 10-month long, 9-month long, effort. You play every single team twice, home and away. There is no one-off about it. It's not and I'm not saying it's easy to win the Champions League, but there is some luck involved, luck in opponent, in the draw, in other results. I mean, Porto, Red Star, Steaua Bucharest, they've all won it. Feyenoord even won it when RVP's little boy inside of him wasn't born yet. So, while they will get something massive that we have never been able to do, they can still say they've never actually won the league. We can still say they're technically, 1 point better than us in the table, and with their new stadium and austerity period coming up, likely to be falling down rather than going up. But I could sacrifice it, and only barely that. But Andy, you're from Hemel Hempstead. How do you feel about it? I bring that up on every podcast.
He does. I was obviously born into a family outside of my father of Gooners, so it was Arsenal win first, Tottenham lose. That was kind of the order. So at the end of the day, I don't care what they do. I want us to win the European trophy. I want us to be able to say that we have Champions League football. I think we have a great manager where we're going to be challenging for top 4, if not the title, for years to come. I'm confident in that, but to see them winning, I mean, at the end of the day, after a season or two, no one gives a shit. All they're going to have when it comes to the banter is that they've won a Champions League before us. I'm still of that old school mentality where I don't see the Champions League being bigger than the Premier League. Honestly, like, and I've told you this before, Mike, and I'll stand by it. Like, I would, at the end of the day, I enjoy seeing an FA Cup more. You know, it's just one of those things that the prestige. I understand the argument. When we live in a fan base now where it's such a global sport, and Arsenal is such a global brand. I mean, you saw me go on Arsenal America when they said this rivalry is stupid. Well, no, I grew up 15 minutes away from it. It's not. You know, I mean, it's not that at all. But there's probably a very good chance that neither of the two teams from North London win, and then this is all a moot point, right?
Well, and if that happens, then apparently a lot of people will be super happy.
The question is if we both win, is there a parade through North London where maybe we share a double-decker bus?
I was going to say
we get the bottom.
The police will probably want, just a shared parade so that they only have to deal with it once, and I'm sure that'll go over fantastically. I did a poll about Premier League ready rising talent versus big name imports. We're going to hold that for the Premier League recap because I really want to get to as many of your user questions as I can. So